Hello horror fans and welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, top 5 scary videos, the place where we really start to question our own sanity while staring at the face of true terror once again. Really, why? Why did it have to be clowns again? What's going on guys? As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch as we polish our oversized shoes, wax our brand new shiny red nose, crack open a smile before realizing that we're doing this whole thing wrong and take a look at the top 5 scariest clown stories that will keep you up at night. Part 2. Roll the clip.
What's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns?
Clowns, man. Although Rob Zombie's interpretation was pretty tame insofar as the bottomless pit of despair that is the twisted soul of a clown. If you've seen the first part of this series, and I hope that you have, then you'll understand that although the world got a little weird in 2016 with mass clown epidemics, the real truth is that it's always been weirdly terrifying, and people have been slapping on face paint and shiny red noses for decades to unwittingly scare the living bejeezus out of us. Before we take a look at that whole thing though, you know how it goes by now guys. If you're a fan of this video, being terrified by clowns for the sheer joy of it, or just top 5 scary in general, then be a dear and hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe bell so you can stay up to date with our latest and greatest uploads. If you'd like to get in touch with myself and the creative team here at Top 5 Scary Videos, then go ahead and take a peek at the info box down below. On with the show. Kicking off at number 5, Uh-Oh, the Clown. And a case that dates back all the way to 1992 from northwest Harris County, Texas. It was a bleak, heart-wrenching case that shook the state for its brutal and unforgiving nature. A barbaric act that seemingly came out of nowhere. Rex Mays, also known as Uh-Oh the Clown, a relatively popular children's entertainer that would don a cowboy hat and clown garb, but in reality a 42-year-old man that at the time had recently been fired from the latest in a string of failed jobs. So when his neighbour's children, 7-year-old Kinara and 10-year-old Kristen, were playing music loudly next door, he went over to yell at them to turn it down. In the end though, he stabbed the both of them 18 times, including in the eyes, in a brutal and senseless murder. Eventually he would tell police that he was just having a bad day. Well, amazingly, Mays would remain uncaught until 1994 after a keen-eyed detective befriended him, building enough rapport in the hope that it would one day lead to a confession. It did, and Mays was sentenced to the death penalty. Next up at number 4, the Stockholm stabbing. And this in part is purely a fallout of that disturbing time when the world went super clown crazy, and it spread its way to the capital city of Sweden, Stockholm, where an unidentified 21-year-old man who thought he was simply caught up in the fear of a well-staged prank was actually brutally assaulted by a masked, red-nosed maniac. He was minding his own business walking through the streets of Stockholm in early evening when a clown approached him, tilted his head perversely and stabbed him directly in the shoulder and calmly walked away. Imagine that. That's serious nightmare fuel, right? Thankfully, the man survived after being rushed to hospital, but the mental scars remained. It was also believed to be related to an earlier incident when 2 masked clowns were circling a terrified woman, laughing hysterically and telling her she'd be murdered. It highlights what really happens when people slip away behind a mask, particularly the mask of a killer clown, where people can hide away their true face and true intentions and act out their violent and disturbing natures. Coming in at number 3, Wrinkles the Clown. Now, Florida has always been a bit of a hive for the weird and the unsettling, and this particular story is no exception. If I told you that back in 2015 a creepy masked clown simply known as Wrinkles started cropping up in Naples, Florida, lingering on street corners, popping up at parties and materializing outside of children's bedroom windows, you'd be scared too. Yes, you heard that correctly. The reality of Wrinkles the Clown though is perhaps a little bit more disturbing. The only thing known about him is that at the time he was a 65-year-old retired veteran from Rhode Island who took up the arduous task of scaring unruly children senseless after being paid off by their parents. Yeah, Wrinkles the Clown made a living out of dressing up in a sunken-eyed clown mask, a polka dot onesie and black rubber gloves. Oh, and of course a bundle of colourful balloons. Now, he made a pretty successful living off of the fear he generated throughout Florida, even being the subject of a Kickstarter documentary which sadly never came to fruition. Still, his true identity remains unsolved, and and Wrinkles the clown can still be found popping up at parties in Florida. No thanks. And swinging in at number 2, the clown kidnapper. And this one really is a terrifyingly disturbing story. Back in 2002, a professional clown was accused of kidnapping and sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl while wearing his full stage makeup, clown outfit and mask. Jose Jimenez, who went on by the stage name El Tin Larin, was a 41-year-old California-based clown who made a living by performing at predominantly Latino children's parties. After finishing a show, Jimenez grabbed the girl at a fast food stand just before midnight in January 2002, after physically bundling her into his work van and taking her to an abandoned car park. After hours of continued horror, the girl eventually escaped from a motel. However, police couldn't identify her attacker, as the only description was that the young girl gave was a clown. Eventually he was arrested though, after DNA traced him to the horrific crime. It's unknown as to how many possible victims he had, as his clown performances at parties went on for over 9 years. He remains in prison to this day. And finally, at our number 1 spot, the Wasco clown epidemic. And what a complete and utter horror show, right? The culmination of all this fear and every coulrophobic's literal nightmare, the Wasco clown epidemic. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, I never want the word epidemic to follow the word clown, ever. But alas, it did, and still kinda does. Back in 2014, a California-based artist from Wasco thought it'd be a great idea to dress up as the creepiest clown possible and publicly pose in areas around the town while uploading all of their exploits to Instagram and Facebook. Of course, this was just patient zero, because this seemingly innocent action became the trigger for a biblical plague of horrific clowns. Things got ugly and copycats began popping up around the county in Bakersfield and Delano, scary clowns wielding baseball bats, machetes, and in several instances, guns. The damage was already done though, the idea was out, even being replicated in Northampton, England, as well as countless other areas across the United States and wider Europe. It literally became the subject of a psychological study in an attempt to understand the nature of anonymity and the fear that drives mob mentality. Alright, that's enough clowns for me. Unfortunately folks, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way to the end. If you've enjoyed this video, then go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe bell so you can stay up to date with our latest and greatest uploads. If you'd like to continue on with your horror binge, then feel free to hit that playlist floating shortly above. As always, I've been your host Jack Finch. You've been watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you take it easy.